I'm treading as hard as I can, but it's simply not good enough. Whereas Ben is incredible, so he has to meet me at some kind of level, because I don't want to be shown up.
Fantastic. The thrill ride begins. It is Troubles Coming, the opening track to the brand new album from Royal Blood. Typhoons is here. I'm John Kennedy. You're listening to X-Posure on Radio X, and I'm very pleased to say that I have got Mike Kerr and Ben Thatcher connected to me via the wonders of the internet. Hello.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Ben, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for asking, everybody.
Excellent. It's so good to see you. It's been a long, long time. And, in some ways, it seems like a long, long time before a new Royal Blood album. 2017 was when the last one came out. I guess, without being rude, what took you so long?
Well, we went on a bit of a journey with this one. We were looking for something new, and we were looking for something fresh. And I guess we were experimenting quite a lot with our music and didn't see any reason to rush something out that perhaps could have been compared to anything we'd done before. And I think part of doing that meant, working out where to go really. And we wrote a lot of songs. In a weird way, this is like our fifth album. It was a lot of trial and error and a lot of good songs in their own right, but it wasn't really until Troubles Coming arrived where we felt like it was the beginning of something else. And that song kind of opened our eyes up to where the album was going to go. Obviously, the global pandemic slowed us down a little bit in terms of recording. It made recording a little bit more difficult. It created this kind of stop-start work ethic where at times the minute we started recording, we had to all leave and go home. And so it was difficult to get into studios. But we've talked about this in previous interviews, but that kind of stop-start experience was similar to making our first record, where we actually ended up recording the album kind of in batches. And each time we'd go home, we'd end up writing a couple of extra tunes just for the sake of it. And so slowly this album was getting better and better, and we had all this perspective that you don't usually get in a record making process.
Yeah. So in some ways it played well for you. It gave you time to take stock after each little burst of recording and be able to assess whether you were going in the right direction. So presumably you started recording in 2020, or had you already started recording before that?
Technically we recorded Boilermaker in 2019, the beginning of 2019. But there was such a long gap from recording that song to Troubles Coming, because I think at that point we realized we need some more material, and we can go and we can write some better songs here. I also personally went on a bit of a self-discovery journey where I got sober during that first recording session during making Boilermaker, and I think that was such a huge change for me in my life and how I function that I had to relearn how to do everything. And one of those things I had to relearn to do was writing songs. I had to work out who I was again. So that takes more than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's kind of a process in itself. But there was a glorious moment where clarity descended upon me, but that wasn't really till 8 months into it, and it really coincided with the writing of the rest of the album. Really, I think part of being creative is knowing yourself and being confident in who you are, and at that point I felt like I had genuine confidence, and I could suggest ideas to Ben that perhaps was stuff we'd never done before. But I guess I could kind of do that without any false confidence. I felt like I could trust my own opinions, which is really important if you're in a band. Otherwise, you're just malleable to let's face it, like a lot of other people's opinions in our position, you know, and we could end up becoming this kind of designed band and have all these songs we don't actually like, you know. So it has to come from us, and it had to be for us. But in order to do that, yeah, I needed some clarity and some genuine confidence.
When did Troubles Coming arrive then? When did you come up with that?
I found like a drunken voice memo of the verse on my phone when we were at the church studios, which is Paul Epworth studio, which is an insane studio. It's like the dream. It has the biggest desk you've ever seen and every instrument imaginable. If you're not careful, you can kind of drown in options. But we were in there kind of stabbing in the dark, to be honest with you. But during that session, a friend of mine sent me the voice memo saying, hey, like I think you must have used my phone to record this because maybe your phone was dead or something, but I just found this, like you should have it. I thought you might need it. And I put it on. I was like, I remembered it immediately. And we were actually just having some lunch and Ben was listening and we were both kind of into it. And the song really exploded out of that phone recording into the studio. And to be honest with you, we only really had the music of it, but in that music, it felt so exciting. It was the moment where it suddenly like everyone stood up and it was like, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the sound. And it felt so fun to play. And having fun is essentially the reason we started this band, you know. It was to bring joy into our lives, you know. And it became an addictive way of playing music. And I think it was a way of playing that was always in us, but perhaps just hadn't been fully realized. It hadn't been, maybe it had been a little bit, you know, dormant. I personally think songs like Figure It Out kind of hold the keys to some of what we're doing now. But in that song, in Troubles Coming, to me, it felt like the first home run, and it felt like, okay, we're back. We have something. And from that point onwards, the process didn't really resemble writing even, let alone stabbing in the dark. It was more like there was this whole language and there was this aesthetic and this world that we were getting to know more and more as the process went on. I'd say the apex of that entire process was when we wrote the title track, Typhoons. It was when we were so confident and comfortable in what we were making. That song was probably the fastest song we've ever written. It felt like it wrote itself, really. It felt like more like discovering something than like pulling it out of thin air.
Amazing. Well, we'll get on to Typhoons. That is on the way very soon. Troubles Coming was our first taste of the new album and the new sound for Royal Blood. And the great thing about it is that we know it's Royal Blood. You can tell it's Royal Blood, but at the same time, it's almost like you're taking us by the hand and taking us onto the dance floor, and everybody's getting down and having an amazing time together. Was that a conscious decision to go more club in a way, or was it, you know, did you just stumble into that with that voicemail message?
I think we've always enjoyed a party, and you know, our tour bus is probably the craziest place on the whole tour. And Ben is such a fantastic DJ, and we don't listen to the music people would probably assume we listen to on that tour bus. You know, it resembles more of a wedding reception on that tour bus. So all of those songs and those grooves and those dance songs we know like very well. We both used to play in a wedding band at one point, so we know those songs and we know how they work. And to be honest with you, it just felt fun. It just felt like, it still felt like rock, but it felt danceable. It didn't feel uncomfortable. I think that's another thing I think was important for us, was to take a couple of steps forwards, but not be like unsure and not be, you know, it's like wearing a new jacket, you know, it like, if you feel like you look good in it, you look good in it. You know, if you're unsure, then someone's like, you're not going to pull it off, you know. So we had to feel very comfortable in the dance shoes.
Well, it certainly seems as if you do. And then you continue it with Oblivion, which is another kind of dance floor bass mover. And it's so succinct. I really like the economy that you've used on a lot of the songs on the new record, where you don't mess around. You get straight to the point, and you don't linger if you don't need to. You just just make it. And Oblivion is a really good example of that, I think. And it has these great kind of backing vocals, which I'm assuming you had a lot of fun recording too.
Yeah, that song was probably one of the last songs written. And yeah, I guess we knew the world we were in. And to be honest with you, like, the arrangement of that song is so brutal. And that's really like Ben as well, because we both have very short attention spans. And I think if anyone would ever sort of accuse us of writing in a pop way, it's really based on attention span. And if there's anything in a song that just doesn't need to be there, we're like more than happy to delete it. Sometimes for better or worse, but in Oblivion's case, yeah, it felt like this like very brutal, harshly cut kind of dance song but still had our rock kind of edge to it, I guess. Yeah,
definitely. And what are those strange sounds at the beginning of Oblivion? There's like a 15 seconds or something before it kicks in.
Oh yeah, that like wonky organ sound. Yeah, that's that might have even been the first thing. That might have been the thing that kind of opened that song up, and it just sounded. So I think I was like playing it like out of time and like wonky, and almost like it had like one eye open. I was playing it. It seemed like the rest of the song is like the punchline to that kind of intro. And it was funny, like Ben was playing at that point, we were like just pushing it further and further. I think because we were at the end of the process, we were like, suddenly like it went from like kind of lighter disco beats to like this like angry alpha, terrifying, like monstrous drum parts, that perhaps the actual content of the drum part isn't that, but like Dan was playing in that way. And it was just like, this interesting counterpoint.
You are listening to Exposure on Radio X. I'm John Kennedy, and that is Royal Blood with Typhoons. It's the third song on the brand new album. It's the title track, and Mike and Ben are hooked up to me online to give us the lowdown on this record. We're actually speaking in February. The album's out today, 30th of April, and it seems like a long way off. But at the same time, you must be really excited to be able to get it out there. And you were saying, Mike, that Typhoons was when you felt really confident. You really thought, yes, we're really on top of what we're trying to achieve here. And I think that you can really feel that confidence in the music and on the album as a whole. Royal Blood, in a way, has always been about confidence. The sound is such a confident kind of proclamation and acclamation of who you are. And I love the way that you've taken that sound and kind of stamped it in another world, in the club world, and made it your own. I mean, it's fascinating that you were in a wedding band together, that you kind of stage a kind of big disco on the tour bus when you're driving around after playing shows. And who are the dance references then, Ben, that you would choose as the DJ on the tour bus that would always get the party going at a Royal Blood after show?
It's a whole mix. You've got to read, as you all know, you've got to read the room. And it depends on the show and the day you've just had, where you are. There's a lot of factors that go into thinking of the right song to play, and I think sometimes it's going straight back to the 70s and getting that Saturday Night Fever thing going on, get the lights going on in the back of the tour bus, but then you've got to progress and move to the Daft Punk kind of stuff with Nile Rodgers, and then it could go anywhere from there. Someone else, I'm very happy for other people to jump in as well. And if they've got an idea of where this can go, you give them that chance. But if they mess that up, then, take that aux cord right back and take control.
A couple of the bands that I think of when listening to the new album are Soulwax and Justice or Justice, depending on how you want to pronounce them. And I guess when they were coming through, you were probably young and impressionable. They might have kind of been a big benchmark about what things could sound like, because they were so big and so heavy, and yet were able to get everybody moving.
Yeah, I think Justice in particular was such a Trojan horse to me, because they were, I guess when I was like 13, was I that young? Yeah, 13, 14 when their first record came out. I was so immersed in rock and roll and rock music and guitars, and they kind of tricked me into loving dance music, and also like it was so, the production was just like no one had ever heard that before, and I still listen to it with next to no knowledge of how they created that music, which is a great feeling for a musician, because I think sometimes the more you start to learn, the more the magic can fade away. But there's certain types of music, and that theirs is one of them, where I don't know how they kind of get to that end result. I think it's so kind of in line with rock music. It draws from the like rock and roll ethos, and it kind of has like that punk attitude, even though they're using keyboards and electronics. So I think, that's always been inspiring to us. And it weirdly feels like we were kind of the flip side of that. Kind of, I was kind of like trying to emulate like keyboard lines and dance sounding tracks, but still using our instruments, so it stays true to us and what we do.
Yeah. It's really interesting how you do that, because in a way it's about limiting yourself, because you end up having to repeat things more than you might do. Little phrases get shortened but repeated again and again to have bigger impact. And particularly like with Typhoons, the end section seems to kind of ascend, both with the bass and with the drums, maybe like a typhoon itself. But it seems to have that effect, which I guess if you were an electronic musician or using keyboards, then you might even be using a program to help you work that out. But you were actually playing these things.
Yeah, and I became obsessed with this idea of playing parts that sounded as if they were laid out on a sampler, because for anyone that wouldn't know, if you recorded a bass line and then you cut that bass line up into four sections, you can kind of repeat the same one over and over. And I love the idea of like playing as if those parts were being repeated over and over the same way a DJ would, or an electronic artist would sample something. So it kind of trying to make dance riffs, but like doing it manually, that became like, that really turned me on as well for a bit.
Yeah. Well, it sounds amazing. So, I mean, you mentioned the church at Paul Epworth's studio in Crouch End in North London, where you were recording Troubles Coming, and I know that he kind of assisted on that a little bit. Did you continue to record at the church? Because you have produced the whole album yourselves, though, haven't you?
Yeah, I think after Troubles Coming, that song made a lot of previous material pretty irrelevant. I also didn't have any vocals for Troubles Coming. We just had like these parts, these music parts. And so I didn't want to be in that studio, that very expensive studio with the clock ticking, trying to think of lyrics on the spot. I just like that. I don't work under that kind of pressure very well. And I went back home and just in my house here, and I was just in my own time, and this pattern, this process actually copied itself over onto some of the other songs in the record. But I broke down what the music was doing on the piano and started to write these lyrics for the track on the piano. And I think writing in that way meant that I kind of forgot that the song it was for was actually pretty upbeat and feel good. And the kind of delicate vulnerability of playing it at the piano meant that the words for that song ended up being quite dark and quite real and quite vulnerable. And then I had them written out and then sang them over the music. And I was like, I sent it to Ben and he was just like, yeah, it's awesome. And because I was a bit worried, like, is this like a strange juxtaposition? Like, but it seemed to work. And that's like another theme I think that began to run through the record. But because we knew it kind of proved that it worked well. Because again, I think disco songs lyrically tend to be quite throwaway, and they can just be really songs about like let's party or let's dance, and they're kind of fun, and that's great. But I don't think I've ever said that until now. So that's not how I talk or how I think. So yeah, it seemed. I think that the facade of being with it all sounding so massive and like a wall of sound and so energetic meant that I could kind of weirdly hide behind that and be even more vulnerable than before, if that makes sense, because it felt so disguised.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, in some ways, maybe that does apply to Who Needs Friends, which is the next song, because in some ways that seems like a more thoughtful song. You actually start to slow things down just a little bit at this point on the album, on the fourth song. And this one was produced with Paul Epworth. So does he come with the church? Do you get to work with Paul if you go and book? And
yes, yeah. It's a meal deal. That track was interesting because that song really started rhythmically from Ben, and that there's like the counter rhythm of like the bass and the drums was all kind of laid out, and I guess the songs in the past have that like primal, almost like catchy rhythms that Ben's so good at and that feature on other songs we've done, like Out of the Black, for example. And that kind of had a taste of that to it. And that's kind of how that song started. And then Ben's always writing songs in the background, like always. Ben has about 8 albums worth of material, which I'm trying to convince him to release, but he's still not sure. But amongst some of this material, there was just this kind of chorus line, and Ben was kind of laughing playing me the song, and then I wasn't laughing because I realized that's the melody for the chorus we've been looking for. So it was this wonderful kind of Frankenstein, and then I just kind of played 3 notes and then moaned about all my friends, and then hey presto.
And that's how Who Needs Friends arrived. Excellent. And so how are you recording all these different songs, Ben? How are you making notes of these ideas?
Just every day I just tend to write something. Normally they're sparks of ideas from, I'm going to write a new theme for Star Wars: A New Hope, and I'll just start writing something just to be creative and just to have a bit of fun, really. And it's amazing how much better you get at recording and how better you get at songwriting and playing through just messing about like that and enjoying yourself. And in those little moments, you can get sparks of something that can really inspire a song or a riff or a beat. And it's like, I show Mike some of these bits and it's like, actually, if you take away my stupid vocals and lyrics, there's a really cool beat and a really cool, whatever behind it, which we can use. So I think it's just, and it not necessarily always writing, thinking about royal blood.
Mm-hmm.
It is because if you do that, then you just write another royal blood song. Instead,
you become a cartoon of yourself.
Yeah.
I love the idea.
Which, what you get from people who go, I really like, I don't like the new Royal Blood sound. I really like the first album, where it's like, well, we could have done the first album again if you really, but we didn't want to do that. It's much more fulfilling and for ourselves to progress and to take these risks with music, and because that's what we enjoy doing live. We enjoy taking risks and playing these things completely live to people, having a different approach every show, because it's just more enjoyable for everyone.
Yeah, totally. I love the idea that you challenge yourself by coming up with a new theme for a Star Wars film, which is a great way of doing it. And when you're recording these things, then Ben, what's your go-to setup? I mean, are you using a keyboard? Are you using guitar? You're recording vocals, as you say.
Yeah, I'm just messing about really. I've got a little home studio.
He's in it now. He's in the den. He's in the shred den.
The electric drums and stuff, but we also have a great facility down in Brighton, which we've just recently got, and so we can record live drums down there and spend a bit of time.
Yeah, there's no laughing. There's no fun allowed in there. No, it's serious in there.
It is Royal Blood on X-Posure Radio X, 1,000,001. It's the 5th song on the brand new album Typhoons. I'm John Kennedy, and with me today are Mike Kerr and Ben Thatcher, who are Royal Blood, connected to me via the internet. So we mentioned the Shred Den, where Ben is, and where are you, Mike? And where are these respective places, so we can get a geographical hold on where you might be?
I'm in the bed den in my house. We're both in Brighton. I think we're as far away from each other as you can be if you live in Brighton. I don't think there's any other two locations that end up further away from each other. That's not intentional, but it's probably useful at times, especially for Ben, because as you probably worked out already, John, I talk quite a lot.
And so
we like the mayors of each. It's like West Side and the East Side.
We've got it covered, yeah.
Right, and who's west and who's east?
Well, it's kind of north and south, really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. I love that idea. And this studio that you go to where the drums are set up, that's in a central location?
We can't give too much away. It's near the beach.
Right, okay, excellent.
We can see the sea, which is quite crucial for us.
Excellent. I love that idea. And I love the way that you're still down there on the south coast. It's important to keep true to your roots. And, it helps keep you leveled and grounded, I suspect, as well. 1,000,001, 5th song on the album. Some other interesting aspects to it. A bit of vocoder action introduced here. And it has more of a kind of mid-pace, I suppose. What can you tell us about 1,000,001?
To me, it kind of feels like slightly inspired by ELO in the kind of drama of it. And it was the first song that we came up with once we came off the road from our kind of short tour that we did. I think it was 2019. I keep using that year. I feel like we did everything there. We did it like when we played Reading and Leeds, and we did about 2 months of touring. Yeah, that little tour was kind of the first time I played at any shows sober. So it was like we needed a bit of a reminder of who we were. And I think that little tour was perfect. And we came off the back of that really buzzed and excited and with a bit of a clearer vision of what we wanted to do. And yeah, this was the first song from that. I think it was like 2 days after playing Rock on Sen, we went straight to our studio and it began. And I guess off the back of Troubles Coming as well, it felt something about it just felt very French to me, and very like, yeah, the riff was like very grand, and it sounded. I felt like it would sound good in like a really big room, like a really echoey room. It was like very simple. And I guess it's like the first real love song that we've ever written. I must be getting calmer as time goes on. Thank goodness. Yeah, it's again, I guess it's vulnerable in a different way. And it's, yeah, I guess it's really about asking for help, and kind of trying to see that as a sign of strength, yeah, it's a big one. I can't wait to play that one live actually as well. I think it's going to be really, really big moment.
It's one of the songs on the record that seems to delve more openly in the electronic side of the new sound in a way. It sounds like you could be playing keyboard on stage when you play this one, rather than playing everything via the bass.
I think it has a bit of like Barbara O'Reilly to it as well, and the kind of like the epic rock kind of feel.
Yeah. It does. I actually had that written down, and I wasn't.
Did you?
Yeah, because the synth line kind of is a bit like that. That track,
and there's something like Bolan to me, like very like Mark Bolan about the riff and stuff.
And I mean, the interesting thing about the record, Million One has an example. Limbo has a great example as well. Is the way that the drums are recorded and played. I think because the sound is still massive. The drums are such a big part of every single track, bar one, on this album, and it's really interesting how yet at the same time there are points where you're really strict on yourself, Ben, and you're really tight in how you're playing, so that it is really regimented, and it could just be a drum machine. I mean, you are a drum machine, aren't you, Ben? In many ways.
Songs like Limbo actually come from Mike doing demos and him having these 2 beats that he put together, and then he was like, that's really cool, can you play this? And it's just trying to replicate and pick out the most important bits of those beats and humanizing it then, which then makes it, I think, really powerful. And yet we have the demo drums, which are so precise, so we've got something to compare it to and something to A/B against, to make sure we get that feel right, because it's all about the feel really of that song and the tempo, because it's so easy when you're playing, like the verse is very busy and quite complex and like all these little intricate parts going on, where when it lands to the chorus, it's like this euphoric kind of moment where the drums kind of open up to this quite simple disco beat, but it's to get the tempos matching and for that transition to feel euphoric coming out of this crazy messy almost part makes that those sections so special, and the marriage between going back to that as well is really interesting, I think.
Yeah, totally. And it's one of the longer tracks on the album, isn't it? Because it's quite a kind of workout in the last couple of minutes where you just get into the groove and just kind of let it rip. And there's this great balance between keeping that groove, but also adding a few little extra bits, both from the drums and from the other instruments that you're using to create these extra little flashes of colour. But that one never goes over the top, really. You never lose control at the same time. It's something that I really feel listening to the record that you must have been really strict on yourselves, that you must have said, look, no, stay in control, don't let loose too much.
Yeah, I think we always think less is more, and what I think is so cool about the drums on this record is it's such a hustle, and there are points I think to hold moments in songs that are simpler and play less requires confidence, and I think overplaying comes out of insecurity, because I also think with ability and skill you can lose all your taste simultaneously. It's more than often people that can absolutely like shred their instrument to death. It's like, guess what, in all their songs they're doing that, and it's like, I think Ben can play anything, so it's important that we both, I mean, I am playing as I'm treading as hard as I can, but it's simply not good enough, whereas Ben is incredible, so he has to meet me at some kind of level, because I don't want to be shown up.
And
that's why you wear your shirts.
Yeah. I'm pulling everything out of the bag over here.
And Limbo, stuck in limbo. I mean, the phrase just seems to be so apt at the moment with what's been going on. Is it connected to that in any way? Are these songs informed by 2020?
Not intentionally. I think that song was really about more like behavior and kind of being stuck in the kind of vicious cycle of bad habits, really, and not really learning from them, and not really having anyone come and save you, and realizing that it's kind of the end, which isn't usually what disco music is about. But again, this is why it's unique. I think as well with making that song, it was written in lockdown, and I think we just forgot I think for a moment in time, we genuinely forgot people were going to hear it. And I think we pushed it further than ever. Like that whole outro section where it goes on the water, and it truly goes further than we've ever gone before. It wasn't until I started playing it to people, like friends of mine, they were like, "Oh, that's amazing." I totally didn't see that coming. And yeah, I think that song had to come much later in the process. We wouldn't have dared kind of ventured that far out at the beginning. But yeah, that's one of my favorite songs on the record. And I think it's the longest song we've ever made. It feels like a proper journey.
It is Royal Blood with Either You Got It on X-Posure Radio X. It is the 7th song on their brand new album Typhoons. We're playing you the whole thing tonight. It is an X-Posure album playback. I'm John Kennedy, Mike Kerr, Ben Thatcher, hooked up to me from their respective dens in different parts of the kind of south coast of England. And this, Either You Got It has another amazing drum workout in the middle of it, and also has this interesting kind of pulsing keyboard, which almost takes the song at the start to another era in a way. When I was listening to it the first time, I was thinking, gosh, that this has a kind of almost 50s feel to it. I don't know why, but what were you going for? What were you trying to do with this song?
It kind of started about a third of the tempo that it is now, and Ben was playing this very almost like full Monty, it was like it's hard to describe. It's the kind of beat that you want to take your clothes off to. That's the best I can scramble together.
It's a little bit like that. New York.
It was the same beat, yeah. Yeah. And we were in the studio around that beat because we were like, no one writes to that feel or tempo ever. And we essentially just hashed out the song at that tempo together on a piano and recorded it, and it kind of just got lost. And then I think at one point I was at home and I was sifting through ideas, and I'd totally forgotten about it, and rediscovered it, and kind of I think we went back to Ben's little studio where he's at now, and we just kind of started jamming out again. But they literally doubled the speed of it, and we realized it was this kind of brilliant song that had been hiding the whole time. And the kind of shuffle that it has to it as well reminded us of like The Way You Make Me Feel and Tame Impala, and again is like a very fun tempo to be a part of if you're a rock band. It kind of, it's hard to explain, but rhythmically it opens up loads of fun when you're playing. It was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, and the tempo doesn't let off at all, really, on Typhoons. Boilermaker's the next song. You said that you tried this one out a few times back in 2019. I think you said that it was the first song you actually recorded for the record, and now it's track number 8 on the record. Produced by Josh Homme, is it?
Yeah, this song went on such a journey. It began in a mate's bedroom. A friend of ours called Tom Hill, and he literally lives down the road, and we were having coffee together, and he was super bummed out. He was like, I can't write any songs, and I was like, mate, me too. I actually can't think of anything. We were both just moaning, and then I was like, let's just go to your house and just make something. Come on, even if it's shit, let's just make something. And the very beginnings of that song came out of that hour of frustration. And then it's such a simple riff and idea, but we felt like that was the song. And I think hip-hop songs do that a lot, like 99 Problems, where the first 5 seconds of the song is the song and you've got the whole idea. So it went on a long process working out how to kind of get something that felt cohesive and felt like it went somewhere. So we had these like puzzle pieces of the song, and we took it to the studio with Josh. And at that point, I'd just done the desert sessions with Josh, so we'd already been working together quite a lot, and obviously we both know him from Queens of the Stone Age, who we toured with for like 4 months. So we're all really tight, and I think it goes without saying he's someone that we really trust and respect. And we played him our demo and where we were at with it. He like fell in love with it and really helped us with the arrangement on it, because I think we didn't know how to piece this thing together. And it has the most psychotic arrangement, but at the time when he was saying it should go back to this, it should go here, and it should feel unpredictable, we were just like, what? And it wasn't until as we were recording it felt like, oh man, this is just like being beaten up. It kind of pummels you to the ground. And it's a song that we got to road test as well. And by the time we hit the first chorus live, I just watched the crowd respond, because you think it's going to go and change into a chorus and it just doesn't change. And the riff just keeps pounding you. And that moment I saw everyone's heads move, and I was like, oh man, this has got something. And it's probably one of the heaviest songs on the record, but I think the swing of the beat, it kind of, it still has that danceability to it. And it felt like this grenade that we could have on the record that would just kind of blow up behind everything. Yeah, it's fun. And again, like that feel of like it being swung made it feel like a big band feel. And yeah, I don't know. Sometimes reminds me of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air as well. Remember the theme tune to that?
Wow. I don't know whether I'd have got that, but it is a really funky track. And it also, I was singing along to it when I was listening to the album before the interview, and then I suddenly thought, but what is a Boilermaker? What is a Boilermaker?
It's a horrible drink. It's a shot of whiskey in a beer, and it's a horrible mixture of things. And there was a point in my life where I found myself drinking them, and it's when you're drinking them, you know things are going wrong. And it was the kind of ugly side of me that I'd remembered. And it was like, it was like digging up old photographs. Where you're like, really? I wore that? And it just matched the kind of how ugly the riff was perfectly. Sometimes you want to like counteract that with something sweet, but we kind of doubled down and went double ugly on that one.
It is Royal Blood on X-Posure Radio X with Mad Visions. It's a 9th song on the brand new album Typhoons. I'm John Kennedy. With me are Mike Kerr and Ben Thatcher, who are Royal Blood, giving us the lowdown on the new record. And I mean, this is amazingly funky as well, this one. I mean, it seems to me as if DJs are going to have a simple job for a while after this album comes out, because they'll just put the Renew Royal Blood album on and go and have a bit of a break, because every single number is so beautifully segued into the next and just keeps the dance floor going. It really feels like that.
Well, there's one thing Ben taught me about being a good DJ, which I'm still a terrible one, but is you don't really want people to stop moving, and we didn't want this record to kind of dip in the middle of it. You don't want people to be caught out, so we kept the kind of tempo up. And this is kind of like excuse the pun, but one of the maddest songs we probably made. And I think our love for Justin Timberlake was no longer hidden, and it was like, I think it's time we let this be heard.
So you get to go high, you get to sing high, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I think we just looked at each other and I was like, I don't really care. Do you care? Ben was like, nope. So I was like, cool. So we're doing this. Let's go. And I think that's what's so exciting about making this record. Every song was like, we shouldn't be doing this. We're not allowed to do this, which is the essence of being in a rock band. Is is doing whatever you want, whatever the consequences. And yeah, it was so fun to make that one. And I'm not sure what else to say about it really. The bridge section as well just felt like Thriller, which we weren't angry about either.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think a lot of people are going to love singing Mad Visions in that way, and tapping into your inner Justin Timberlake. And do you sing on it as well, Ben?
I don't know. Leave that to Mike and our beautiful backing singers.
So there are beautiful backing singers, or because that was one of my questions. Was thinking, is that just Mike multiplied, or do you get other people involved?
We have two brilliant singers who tour with us when we play live, and I could just hear that when they sing together, it's like something magical happens, and their voices create like a third voice. It's kind of insane. And on the chorus sections and on the bridge, I could just I had put my vocal down, but I could hear because I know their voices, so I could hear them kind of echoing in the background. And so they came down to the studio and sang on it, which again just it gave it this whole new personality, because you're literally having different people come and collaborate on our recordings, and it just gave it this completely different edge, and this obviously like feminine energy to the song as well, which makes everything better.
Yeah. Who are they then? You should name them.
Their names are Bobby and Jodie.
And where are they based?
They're based in London.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess we've known them for a couple of years now, and we really only have done that short tour I was talking about earlier, where we did a couple of months. Obviously, we plan to continue the tour, but we're unable to at the minute. But they've been kind of like our secret weapon for this record, especially making for like presenting the illusion that I can actually sing as well. So thank you, Bobby and Jodie.
Excellent. And then Mad Vision segues brilliantly into Hold On, and when I've been listening to it, I'm imagining it live and thinking that you'll extend that little section that comes near the end of Mad Visions for ages before you slip into Hold On.
Well.
Well, I just really want you to do that, because I think it's going to be so good.
Costume change.
Yeah, it's just so great. And Hold On is one of the highlights on the record for me. I find it such an uplifting song, and it has to be a single at some point. I think it's just so good. And what can you tell us about Hold On, because this is kind of maximum dance floor almost?
Yeah, I think being feel good and being positive in rock is so difficult, and it's so hard to pull off without it immediately turning into like a Bon Jovi song or something. But I think the intention of the song was to create something euphoric that was like, but also that wasn't light, and I think there was someone in my life that I really wanted to make feel better, and it gave the songwriting a real purpose, other than like, let's try and write a really great Royal Blood song, which I'm all up for. But when it's for someone else, it felt, it adds a weight to it and a meaning to it. And again, like the music was so uplifting as well. So it was kind of fun, it was like I was at points, I've done this a lot, but I was pretending that I was Jimmy Page for about 10 minutes. And that's kind of the verse riff, really. It was just like a Zeppelin riff. I think the original like file name for the track was like Zepp Disco or something fun, something stupid like that. And then the chorus riff, just like there's a few friends of mine who don't play music, don't really have much interest. They like music as much as they like dinner, and I played In Trouble's Coming, then I was like, I just want to play this thing, and it was the main riff, kind of Hold On, and they just see music so objectively that I'm like, I really, really like listen to them and value their opinion. My mate was like, that's good. That I don't know what that is, but that's a good one, isn't it? And I was like, yes, it is a good one. I was like, I'll see you next week. Get out. And again, like Ben's kind of drumming on it just made it so epic, like playing over the beat with these like huge fills, and yeah, it felt like the victory lap of the record.
It is Royal Blood with Hold On, the penultimate track from the brand new album Typhoons, the last burst of dance floor action, because now you contrast everything with the final song on the record, which is All We Have Is Now. And it's interesting talking to you, you're both in your dens, where I think maybe a lot of the creativity is sparked and starts in many ways in those respective homes of yours. And it's interesting to hear, as we have, how you like to explore your creativity in different ways. So, while we see you on stage, Royal Blood, the drums, the bass, the amps, and that amazing onslaught that you're so well known for. But at home, you're there, crouched over pianos with an acoustic guitar maybe, creating all these different home demos, exploring different musical avenues. And All We Have Is Now is just vocal and piano. And takes it down to the essence of music, I suppose, to the essence of a song. And both of you play piano, both of you write these kind of things to explore your creativity. And why did you decide with this song to leave it like that, to keep this in this kind of raw form?
I mean, at first we didn't think the song was going to go on the record, because I think ending on Hold On would have been quite a neat way of ending. But this track, it was like a song that I had in my back pocket, and there was a particular point in the studio where I was kind of nervous to play it, and I was like, it's quite a vulnerable song and I'm really putting myself out there. And I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to play it. And Ben was on the other side of the piano, and I was like, can I just play this new thing? And I played the song. I got to the end and I was like, and then his head just popped up from the piano like this, and he was like, that's great, that's got to go on the record. I was like, really? He was like, yep. And then his head just went back down again. and then I was like, are you going to play on it? And his head came up and he was like, nah, and then just went down again. And then we essentially just recorded it there and then. It was like, action, and we just did it. And the song kind of, we didn't even mix the song. So we just sent it to be mastered. It was truly untouched. I think however far we go, it's all of our ideas are based on Ben and I being in complete agreement on something. And I think Ben being like, we've got to put it on, was like, cool, then it's going on then. It's like, I think I needed him to kind of make the decision.
Very interesting. And you just felt an immediate connection with the song then, Ben? You just knew that was going to be the one?
As soon as he played it, I was just like, it's a, like you were saying, we're known for our like big brash sound, and it's a part of of us to be quite vulnerable as well, and especially with how Mike plays and how he sings. It was such a special moment, and I think we could have just missed it off the album, and the album would have been great finishing with Hold On, but I think there's something in it that just makes the album that little bit more special, and just that moment of calmness almost. But I think lyrically it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's such a contrast to the 10 songs that you hear before it. It's such a great way to round it off. And where was it recorded then? Where was this when you were playing it to Ben?
We were at the church,
right?
And we were packing down and leaving. Everything was kind of going to be sent back to Brighton. And that's I think that's probably why I was like, I'll play it now.
Yeah, the church is an interesting room because obviously the name reveals that it was a church. There's still a part of the building, I think, that is still used as a church. It has a really high ceiling, and I don't know whether this was during the day, but light kind of comes in a really nice way in that room. It has a really kind of warm, homely feel to it, even though it's quite a big space.
Which is ironic, seeing that it's a church.
Yeah, in some ways, but then a lot of people find comfort in church, and that's
true,
a place of refuge for them, and a place where they can reveal sides of themselves that they might not do otherwise, which is what you were doing with Ben. And luckily you have this partner who you can reveal these things to.
Yeah, thank God.
Well, and we're all the beneficiaries of this. That's the great thing. I mean, it's so good to have a new record from Royal Blood. You must feel pretty pleased with Typhoons now, I would say, because it's a different sound, but it lives up to your reputation and everything you've achieved so far, but kind of takes you in another direction. And yet with the closing song, we could see, do you think you'd explore this side of your creativity further as a band?
Yeah, I feel like this record has opened up a much wider and longer pathway for us, and I think being a band that thrived off limitation at the beginning, it feels like we understand ourselves, and we know kind of who we are and what we're capable of, and I think making the record ourselves as well, it creates a great trust between the two of us as to what we want to do. And now it feels the idea of carrying on and making more records and being more creative just feels exciting. It doesn't feel like this burden, which to be honest with you, it has felt like in the past. Now it feels like a privilege to be able to kind of explore our creative ideas and share them with people.
Fantastic. And who knows, we might get a series of Ben Thatcher solo albums at some point.
They're coming.
Let's hope so.
I'm actually going to manage him. I'm his radio plugger, John. So expect a few knocks at the door. Yeah.
Please send those songs when he's ready to share them with people. I'd love to hear them and play them.
I'll send you an email.
Excellent. Good work. Ben, Mike, thanks so much for giving us all this amazing detail about the record. Really exciting to talk to you again.
Of course. Thanks, man. Great chat.
Radio X.